Right. Hello, everyone. So, if you don't know me, I'm looking at lots of new faces here today, which is awesome for me because I do get to see lots of the same people a lot because of the groups I run. So it's really nice to see some new people. What I do is it came by accident. It really came by trying a lot of stuff in property and screwing up, to be honest with you. So I really didn't do do what was suited to me for a long time, and this is like about 5 years ago now. And then as I was going through it, I realized there was this big urgent need in every single strategy for money. I'm just going to look at this chat, just make sure there's nothing urgent that I haven't screwed up. Oh, it's somebody else just joining. So for me, there's always this problem with getting enough money for whatever deal it was, whether it's an HMO, a buy-to-let, a development deal, whatever. So instead of me focusing on building, sourcing deals, running HMOs, running rent-to-rents, I started to focus on where the money was, because for me and my background, I come from a banking background. I've worked in financial services and investment banking and analysis for 20 years. So for me, money was the most natural thing in the world. And I realized in the world of property, that was the thing that most people never seem to get their hands on quick enough. So I decided to start matching up money with deals. And because of FCA regulations, it's much harder to be working at the lower levels. So this really is about upgrading your network. So you're going to be looking for people, sophisticated investors and high net worth individuals really, or even the funders that are available for finding big money. So when I say big money, in the world of property, it's not hugely big. I'm talking about £1 million plus. So now all I do is focus on finding those sorts of figures for people that need it, so for developers. Now, you coming to me and looking to me to help you find money for your deals is going to cost you, and it's expensive. And the more people there are in the chain, the more, you know, you might have to keep bumping up that brokerage fee, or whatever you want to call it, an introduction fee in my case, because I don't give financial advice and I don't give legal advice. So this is really about helping people to help themselves, help people to actually do this themselves, because there are more, it's not like doing myself out of business. There is so much money out there, and there are so many people out there busting to invest, and I can't do it all, and my partner can't do it all. So really this is about helping you. And you know, my my ulterior agenda is really to help people get really good at this, so I can connect with them when I've got a need. So it's really about making sure that everyone's got these amazing upgraded networks where we can find people that we wouldn't necessarily find in our normal day-to-day networking life. So as I said, I concentrate a lot on high net worth individuals. A very brief introduction to what they are, and some people that have seen some of my other presentations will recognise this. It just depends if it's the FCA in England, if it's the US, if it's a financial institution. They all have different definitions of what a high net worth individual is. As far as we are concerned, it's people with a lot of money, and it's also people that can afford to invest. That's the whole point of the FCA regulations, is to ensure that we're not dealing with people that are kind of putting their life savings into your project and can't afford to lose it. I'm not saying that your project's going to go wrong, but at the same time we need to protect those people, which is why I only deal with the kind of big money deals, because we're talking about people and organisations and hedge funds that can afford this and understand how to calculate the risk, and oftentimes retail investors can't do that. And you'll also find that a high net worth individual in America is far different. It's in UK, you don't need much to become a high net worth individual. I think it's 100k income and 250k in net assets. That's not including your home. And to be honest, that's not very much, and especially in the circles that we're talking about here, that's not very much. So, you know, it's not like it's this kind of crazy elite few. There's quite a lot of people that do fall into that high net worth individual category. And so why do you need them? Why bother? Why bother upgrading your network? You know, we've all found money in various ways. We've begged, borrowed, family and friends, and various other ways. You can go crowdfunding, you can do all kinds of things. I love private money. It's often quicker. Well, it's always quicker. It's always quicker, and it's potentially cheaper. It's not always cheaper. Oftentimes, again, these people that have made a lot of money that are going to be invested in your deals, they've made money because they're good and shrewd, probably, and they're not going to just lend it out at 5%. They want to make some money out of this. So you may be paying more, but if it's a difference between, you know, a deal happening and not happening, I'd much rather just get that deal going and give away a bigger slice of the pie than never getting that deal going. And anybody in property, whether you have been in it 5 minutes or 500 years, you're going to have a cash flow problem at some point, because you know, the whole point of particularly developing is that that money is getting tied up at some point in time. So it's really important to have a kind of network, a backup network of people that you can go to. The amount of times at the 11th hour that someone pulls out or funder pulls out, I mean, we just had some phone calls today. People are getting very, very tense again about another lockdown. We've got some funders that are getting a bit nervous. If they pull out, what do? You need to have a backup plan. And for me, private individuals, in this case, a backup plan, because the actual the institutional funding was cheap, so we were going to go down that road. If they get nervous, we'll just go to our private investors. So why do they need you? So as I said, some people will recognise some of these slides. Money wants to make more money, but if you've got money and you want to invest it, there's always going to be problems. People have tax issues, they have estate planning issues, they're worried about losing it. So really and truly, what do people do when they have got a load of money and they want to invest it? They don't just go into the yellow pages, I don't know if that even exists now, on Google, saying I want to invest 100 grand or 500 grand or £1 million. That's not a wise thing to do. They will have financial advisors and wealth managers and people around them that help them invest. And one of the things I always encourage is for people to make contact with the people that are advising your sophisticated investors, and also the smaller independent financial organizations, smaller hedge funds, or smaller banks and things like that. Get around the people that are working with them if you're not necessarily getting to them direct, but they certainly have problems and you certainly can solve those problems. They always want to make more money. So to upgrade your network is and there's, like, I'm not being this is nothing against property strategy meetings, but generally these kinds of people do not hang out at your normal property networking meetings. Some do, but on the whole, I haven't had much success doing this. Property networking meetings are so important for doing what we're doing today, sharing knowledge, finding maybe JV partners, or, you know, finding people that are going to be inside your power team, or just getting some advice. They are not always the best place to find investors. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've done a 40-second pitch in a property networking meeting, and all I've had is more people like me come up to me looking for my services, really, rather than investing in me. So that's why I always say to people, start thinking about your networking. What do you do to networking? Property networking is very niche and it's really, really important. And I love it. And it's something that I'll always do. And it's brought me everything that I've got. But I did need to go elsewhere to find the investors. I'm just looking at time because I do tend to babble on. So one of the easiest things to do is to think like one of these people. What would you do if you had a load of disposable income? So I always talk about connecting with the connectors. One of the things I do now is I'm creating a group of connectors, because it's so much easier and so much more time efficient to be able to pick up the phone and recommend somebody. Now, if your network doesn't involve directly high net worth individuals, I would invite you to start thinking about people that do work with high net worth individuals. It is not, and it doesn't even need to be anything complicated. We're talking about simple things like walking outside of your door today and having a look in your town centre and just having a look who are the biggest business people you've got in your area, who are your solicitors, who are your accountants, who are your luxury diamond brokers, who are the people in your vicinity, who are your developers. You know, every time you walk past a development, just take a note of who that person is, what that company is. It doesn't have to be just an individual, it could be a company. People at this level of money are always looking to invest in other things, and you might think, oh, they're not going to be interested in my little buy, refurb, refinance. You never know. Sometimes the most simple project can be the most attractive because it's often a quick return, and it doesn't always have to be a very exciting return for them. It can be a very quick return. So if you're offering things like a quick return, maybe a 6-month or 12-month return on their money, that can be very attractive to some of these people, even the people that you wouldn't even dream that would be interested in investing. Have a look around at people that have got money and be brave about it. And if you don't want to go directly to them, think about the people that connect with them. One of my richest veins of investors are luxury, item, event, and travel brokers. Make sure they're part of your world. And it's a bit weird when you first talk to them. You don't want to go straight in there and start talking about investment deals, because you need to pre-qualify who these people are going to be talking to. But that's how you start to network around the right people to get these kinds of investors. One of the other things I always talk about is you need to think like a high net worth individual. So what are their main concerns and what would your main concerns be? So if somebody came out of the blue, say LinkedIn or Facebook, or, I mean, this is because of we're in COVID land, aren't we? We've got have to do everything online. But at a networking event or business networking event and spoke to me as a high net worth individual, my heckles would go up immediately, because I always think, what do they want? What do they want? How much do they want? You know, there's that suspicion, and that is something that is across the board. Nobody wants to give away money. Nobody wants to lose money. So the main concerns for people at networking events that might want to invest in your deals is how secure their money is. And I talk about this a lot when I talk about high net worth individuals. I talk about making sure you offer security. You need to treat that money in a more reverent way than you treat your own money. I don't like it when people call it other people's money. It sounds like it's, you know, it's not as important as yours. It's way more important than your money. And investors' funds are the most precious thing in your business, and they need to ensure that, you know, that they're going to get them back. And I've been stung many, many times, and I'm sure everyone here has had some level of bad experience in property, but I've lost 100 grand doing this in the first 5 years. Now 100 grand over 5 years, that's a salary to some people, but I lost 100 grand. I didn't do it recently, I did it in the beginning in a big chunk, so that was quite a blow, but that was because I hadn't secured my investment. And if you can't secure your investment, you've got no business asking for that money. So have a look at things like assets. Obviously usually it's an asset-backed deal that you're talking about, but if you've not got that, look at PGs, look at other assets you've got. You've obviously got to balance it with, you know, you don't want to risk your entire life for this deal, but think about the way they feel, and then you're going to have the answers for them before they even ask the questions, which always gives you a much more powerful position of trust and integrity. Don't wait for them to drag it out of you. Give them that information straight away. How are we doing for time? Oh, 10 minutes, okay.
Fine,
so
I'll let you know when it's fine.
Oh, okay, thank you. What do they want to hear from you? So when you put yourself around these people, and as I said, start I know I can't go into great detail today on who these people are and how to find them, but just to try and give you as much as I can in a short time. Once you have located the wealthy people in your world, and as I said, they don't have to be in property, they can be anyone in any industry. Let's start with your local vicinity first, because that always works well, because I also talk about locality increases the level of trust for the reasons of familiarity. And I know it doesn't actually make sense. You could be a crook, they could be a crook. But when you talk to somebody that, you know, just works down the road, or Wolseley that works in Leamington, you know, the company in Leamington, if you go and speak to the PA there and you talk about a local business person goes a long way, rather than somebody in London talking to somebody up north. And this is, I'm not saying you can't do that, saying talk to your local people first. What do they want to hear from you? Credibility, knowledge, discretion. When you're dealing with large amounts of money, one of the reasons I don't post what I do very much online, I post what I do in terms of my networking and stuff, but I don't post deals online. I don't ever do that. My investors would be furious. There's an enormous amount of discretion, at particularly at that level. And when we're talking about building tower blocks, or, you know, big things in prime areas, it's very easy to locate, you know, who owns what, and the world they're in, you need to be really discreet. So it's not the same as when you are starting out and you're kind of doing the smaller deals. When you're doing bigger deals, they like to be discreet, and most of my investors wouldn't be appreciative of me having shared any details with anybody about what deals they're doing. So that's one thing. Trust and integrity is massive. Knowledge, so you've got to back up what you're talking to them about with some facts. Now, that knowledge, particularly if you're going for someone that isn't necessarily in property, as I said, investors can come from everywhere and anywhere. Say, for example, you have walked into your local diamond brokerage and you're talking about maybe doing some kind of symbiotic deal with whoever runs the brokerage. You know, if you introduce me to people that might want to invest, I'll introduce people into your business, something like that. When you have these conversations, they want to know that that recommendation is going to be a good one. And you don't necessarily need to just talk about property. It's really important you talk around property, and that you have a knowledge about finance and money and risk. So I always recommend that people, you know, brush up a little bit on politics and what's going on in the world, and you know, how property stacks up as an investment compared to the other forms of investment. Because otherwise they'll say, well, why don't I've got all my money in crypto or gold or stocks and shares, or I don't know, whatever, many things, racehorses. You need to have a kind of grasp, a very basic grasp of how that stacks up with properties. So when you're talking about it, you know, you're not convincing them, you're not a financial advisor, but you do need to show that you have got a little bit of knowledge about finance and financial markets is really important. Credibility. I'm not going to go into that too detail, but obviously make sure if you're talking to people and you've upgraded your network and you're in a meeting or even a party or something, you've got something to back it up with. Do not go around without a website. That's so important. Every single person's online. The first thing you can do is check out your website. If you've got no website, they don't believe you're credible. So here we go. So take your time. It's a long-term relationship. I always say look for money for future deals, so it's ready to go. Timing comes in so much with property. Oftentimes you've got the money without the deals, or you've got the deals without the money. That still happens to me. I haven't balanced that perfectly. I've balanced it a lot better these days than I used to. Start looking now, even if you're only doing deals at 100, 200, 300 grand, start looking for the investors for £1 million and the £2 million right now, because you won't believe how quickly your life can change. And suddenly, you know, where you thought you were just doing up bungalows and extending them, all of a sudden you're developing like a retirement home or something. I don't know, some of us have got bigger ideas than others. To play the long game, you do not need 100 of these people or groups of these people. You need maybe 2 or just 1. They need to want to work with you. And what makes you different from all the other people asking for money? Number 1, 2, and 3 is always about trust, 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 trust. Your ethics, your values, the way you speak to them. I've cut out a couple of slides here because they were rude and they had swear words in them. But basically I was saying, do not brown nose these people as well. Do not suck up to them, and do not, because they're the ones that have got the money, treat them like they're in control of the deal. You need to make sure that they have your respect as well as you give them respect. So you have to be responsive and professional, but do not be desperate. I don't think I spelled that correctly. That's upsetting me.
That's fine, Liz. Okay.
Okay. So in summary, there we go. Know their mindset. You need to start thinking like a high net worth individual or people with money, basically. Understand their fears and their ambitions. You need to know where they are and get there. You need to understand how they connect with society and their needs and habits. Charity events, philanthropy, lots and lots of ways that very wealthy people connect with society. Get in those networks. Don't just stick to property. You need to know your offering and how you come across. You need to ensure you're credible, have a bit of knowledge and confidence in yourself and your business, of course. And then the long game. Relationship is the most important thing in your business. And you can only have a successful relationship by being yourself. So there are enough wealthy people and wealthy investors out there to suit every single one of you. So you don't have to rely on pretending to be somebody else to attract, you don't need to attract every wealthy person in the world, every investor. You only need to attract ones that are like you. So find people that have similar values, similar interests, that are a huge, as I said, I can't go into it today, but I've got a list as long as my arm of places, things you can do that wealthy people do. And it might feel uncomfortable at first, but once you start doing it, you start to realize they're not that different. They're not an alien species. And you start to work out which ones vibe with you, because the ones that vibe with you are the ones that are going to start trusting you and invest with you. And I promise you, it's not as hard as you think. And some of my best investors have come from me literally emailing a company and speaking to the PA and saying, can I speak to your CEO? He sounds like a really, or she sounds like a fantastic business person. I'll probably put it in a better way than that. They've made a lot of money and I feel like I'm at the beginning or the middle or wherever of my journey. And I wonder if I could just have 10 minutes of their time. What do you think? And I've got investors like that. It's as simple as that. It really, really is. So be brave, be confident, and start looking elsewhere. And property meetings are great for this sort of thing, but start looking outside of the world of property.
Thank you for watching the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to speak at one of my events, please get in touch. My contact details will be on here. Also book on via Eventbrite for next event, which is always on the third Monday of each month, online from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Hope to see you at the next one. See you soon.